the wink and nod are no longer needed. Neither are the euphemisms Brent Musburger liked to use on network television for those who might have $1 or $2 bet on whatever game he happened to be calling. He used to call them my guys in the desert, and those in the know knew what Musburger was talking about. It was his way of telling viewers on CBS and later on ESPN that the final minutes of a game no longer in doubt might still mean something to people with money on the point spread. The guys in the desert aren't just his friends. They're part of his business now, 5 days a week in $1 million glass booth inside the sportsbook at the South Point Hotel at the end of the Las Vegas Strip. Musburger is looking live these days in the middle of a bustling casino sportsbook, where bettors with big wads of cash line up at the windows to take their chances against bookies equally determined to leave them empty-handed. It's there that Musburger and his guys fill listeners in on the latest odds and trends. It's there that they also hope to knock another hole into the perception that sports betting is somehow immoral and sleazy. There's a part of the population that thinks this is some kind of a dirty business, Musburger says. I tell people all the time it's as clean as it gets with all the regulation they have. The 78-year-old broadcasting icon is the face of the Vegas Stats and Information Network, VSIN, a fledgling company started by his nephew, Brent Musburger. Unlike other sports betting information services, VSIN doesn't sell picks but delivers information 24 hours a day on Sirius XM radio. Musburger does 2 hours a day, 5 days a week in this, his adopted city, talking about the point spreads and over/unders to what he believes to be a growing audience of listeners. On one side of him in the broadcast booth is longtime sportsbook operator Vinny Magliulo, and on the other professional bettor Amal Shah. It's a far cry from the days when he'd sign off of NFL Today on CBS following the NFC Championship game by tipping viewers that there was a line making one team or another the favorite in the Super Bowl. I thought people were interested in that, Musburger said, sitting at a table in the sportsbook bar. Of course the NFL would complain and I'd say, damn, I forgot. Then, of course, I'd do it again the next year. Musburger isn't far removed from the games he now talks about on his show. After decades in network broadcasting, he abruptly left ESPN on good terms, he says, in January for his new job in a city where betting on sports is not only legal but part of everyday life. His nephew encouraged him to make the move, partly because the new network needed the credibility his name brings and partly because he had nothing left to prove as a play-by-play announcer. My pitch to him was I want to reinvent the pregame show he did at NFL Today, Brent Musburger said. I went with a challenge about how we can innovate the pregame show. We looked to speak directly to people who truly needed a pregame show, whether fantasy players or sports bettors. They need credible information before the games start, not fluff pieces on what players are doing in the community.